And thank you for putting in the chat where you're from, and if there's anything in particular that you would like to get from today's conversation. In the meantime, I'm going to launch a poll. And just wondering if you have a food scrap program at your municipality and area, for those of you who might not be particularly with the municipality. And while you're answering that, we'd like to welcome you to an interactive discussion on bringing an on-site food waste management solution to your municipality. And we've got people from all over the country joining today. So welcome to Food Waste Prevention Week. Monday it starts. We're going to be doing another webinar on Friday about bringing private and public entities together to solve the issue of food waste management. So we want to make this a lively and interactive conversation. So feel free to post questions and things in the chat. Again, tell us where you're from. I'd like to give a nod to our fabulous guest here, Dan Colleluori, and from Stamford, Connecticut Municipality. He has over 40 years, just that, right, of waste management experience in public, private, and higher education sectors, and has been with Stamford for 18 years. Managing, he's the director of recycling and sanitation department at Stamford, Connecticut. We've known him for a number of years. And he's got a staff of 70 and a budget of 15 million, and he's managing 4 facilities. So he's got a lot to share with us today. I'm Marjorie Spitz with Table to Ground. My colleagues Arthur and Justine are on the call as well. And we are a food waste management on-site solution. I also co-launched the Long Island Organics Initiative, which is, again, pulling private public entities together to solve the issue of food waste on Long Island, which is a unique place. So again, we'll be doing that on Friday. And so today we're going to talk about what that means, why on site. We're going to talk about what's going on in Connecticut. And we want to encourage you and empower you to come up with your own action plan for what we hope you can do. And again, please ask questions. Please feel free to write in the chat, and we'll monitor it as best we can. I see we've got people from Tennessee and Minneapolis and Chicago and Connecticut, Syracuse. So thank you. And in answer to our poll, all of you have answered. It's just about even. Do you have a food scrap program at your municipality? So, so that's good for us to know going in. Mostly no, 52% no. So, so thank you. I'll share those results with you so you can see that. And we'll get started. So let's see here. Okay. So I'm sure many of you have seen this before. So we've got, you know, the EPA's wasted food scale. And we obviously want to be as far to the left as possible on this food scale. So we want to prevent what we can via planning. We want to donate. We want to then upcycle and repurpose, feed animals, and then move into compost. We want to try to stay away from the right side of this scale, right, where we're, you know, at the waste portion of these things. And what we're talking about is basically, you know, we've got 30% of the waste stream. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my, you know, let's see here. There we go. When you look at the national stats, we've got about 30% of food going unsold or uneaten. And that's a lot of meals, 120 billion meals, and a lot going to landfills and incineration or down the road. And it's worth a lot of money, right? So this is us. We're Table to Ground. We have an on-site food waste management solution we call the Grounder. There's a lot of solutions out there. We need all of them. We need the anaerobic digesters. We need the backyard. We need the drop-off programs. We need all the planning involved. But for us, we provide this on-site option where you put the food waste in the machine. You mix it with browns, and in a 24-hour cycle, it's 80 to 90% reduced in size. And then it comes out a pre-compost that can be used on site or as a or turned into compost, uses a soil amendment or turned into compost. And I'll just show you a quick video. It's not going to have any sounds, but you can just sort of see the process here. It's pretty small. It's like depending on how much food waste you have. We put the food waste in the machine here. We did a partnership. And then this is the output. So this is about 50 pounds, and this is what it looks like when it comes up. It's a cold day, so. Excuse me. So then, let me just, sorry about that. There we go. And so, like I said, it's one of many options out there, but it reduces volume significantly in a 24-hour cycle, and it's decentralized. And Dan can speak to some of the benefits because he uses a system on in Stamford, and so it's a quick volume reducer, reduces the need to haul. It's got cost savings and practical. It's a short implementation, so we need the facilities like I mentioned, but that takes time. So in the meantime, we can do something like this in an affordable way, integrate the community and deal with smells on site, have less odor, and environmental and community impact. So that's a bit about us. And again, feel free to put any questions in the chat. And so then let's talk about Connecticut, right? So, oops. So in Connecticut, there's about 2.2, this is statistics from the Connecticut Deep, about 2.2 million ton of municipal solid waste tons per year. That's 41% of its organic material, and food waste is 25.5%. So there's a lot of opportunity to improve that. And there's a lot of resources available. Connecticut's doing a good job of explaining what the mandates are. Last year, I believe it was, if you generated 2 tons of waste per week, then and you were within 20 miles of a facility, you had to deal with it. This year it's 1 ton, and I think it's going down to half a ton. But there are some resources and funding available, and they are encouraging regional solutions. So that's pretty cool here. So would love to hear from you guys in the chat about what are some of your challenges. And Dan, maybe you could speak to some of yours. What are some of the challenges that you had before you started to address them on site?
Well, I'm the director of recycling and sanitation for the city of Stamford. And I came into that position about 18 years ago, never having anything to do with garbage except how to make it. So then I learned fairly quickly. It's a big operation. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of staff, and I have a lot of interaction with the public. At that point in time, I had people very interested, and I'm assuming similar to your communities, your areas that you're in, people very interested in composting. So I applied for a matching grant with Sustainable Connecticut at that point in time. We got the matching grant, and it had to match private money. So one of the challenges was how to get that money. So I created a public task force, which has been a tremendous asset to us over the years. And they raised money in one night that we were then able to utilize to get the grant. At that point in time, I purchased the machine that we have. No, not the machine we have, a 100-pound-a-day machine, and was overrun with the amount of people who were dropped. We created a drop-off program in our municipality with selling kits and compost bags, and we were overwhelmed with the quantity of people who partook in it. So after a month, I figured out 100 pounds was too small. We swapped it out for a 500-pound-a-day machine, and we've been using that for the last 4 years. The challenges that come in are educating the public. I think that wherever you are, 10 to 20% of the population is tremendously into composting and would look into that and want to do it. It's a matter of getting your message out there. to the public. For us, it was selling the kits, trying to get those people who want to be involved. For me, it was fairly easy to start the program at my recycling center because my recycling center was staffed already. That wasn't an easy sell to my staff per se, but we got it done and went forward. I think at that point it was a tremendous. The company that I used, their representative was Arthur, and he was a tremendous asset to me and our community in getting our machine up and running and really operating. So it's educating the community. It's trying to get people to stay involved. And one of the ways we did that was my task force, which was again volunteers from the public. They helped us by getting out there in the community, by going to events, Earth Day, Food Waste Week, where we could set up tables and go to events and market the program. We did that. They did that. And they were a tremendous help. They made videos, which I put on the city website. So we really had a lot of success, I think, now to do that. Our program expanded after 2.5 years. I got a second grant and I bought a second machine, and that machine is at a public farm in downtown Stamford. And they have set it up that they have access 24/7. The public can drop food waste off at their program, which is when you look at the stats, you'll see we grew. First year we had 44,000 tons. Second year we had 85, I think, which was just inherent growth. Third year we went up to 130, 125, and that was because halfway through the year I put the second machine in place. So that was a tremendous benefit to us. We are looking at it now, and let me step back. My initial goal with all this was a way to have an economic impact, to save money. When we get rid of $7.5 million worth of garbage a year, we haul it away and dispose of, and any money that I can cut out of that into a savings, it would be tremendous. And both my machines were bought off of grants. I have no additional salary expense for that. And there's really no additional expenses for that. So for our program, what we did as well as we applied for an EPA Swiffer grant, and we got that. I put it together with my grants office. They were asking me all details, and I gave them numbers, and we put a plan together. And I was like, no way in heck is that ever coming through. And guess what? It came through. So we have the grant now for a little over a year, and that's been able to, I've been able to hire a part-time food waste coordinator for the city. We're a city of about 135,000 residents. We have twice that many people during the day because commuters come in. So I didn't have anybody to help me, market and really work on this. So the food waste coordinator is a wonderful asset, and she's been helping us for a year so far. The Swiffer grant will also be paying for. We're going to put 52 smart containers throughout the city as a drop-off program in the city. The grant is paying for a way to collect those. It bought me a truck. I have the ability to pay for staff to do that, and then it's going to pay for 2 or 3 additional machines that I can site in different locations, different proximities that we can use. I'm really expecting us, hopefully, at the end of 2 years from now, to be up to almost 1 million pounds a year, because I think we're at the level that I probably have maybe 70% of the truly committed who want to do food waste, and there's a lot more people because Stamford is spread out a little bit. And to get from one half to the other half probably takes, it's not a lot of miles, but takes maybe a half hour to get to. So that's a barrier for people to partake in the program. So if I can make it easier for people, like everything else, then we'll have even more success. Again, the task force and now the food waste coordinator are really my spearhead for community engagement and really out there marketing and working on things with the public. We anticipate progressing much further than we are starting this spring and really rolling out much more of a program. We're waiting for some of the hurdles that we have to jump over with federal funds and city purchasing plans to obtain our machines and our 52 smart containers that are out there. But once we get that up and running, then we're really gonna develop it even further. One of the other advantages that we're gonna have is, I'm gonna put a machine. We have an area called Mill River Park, and it's a quote unquote central park in our town. And they have an education building there, and so we're gonna put a machine there for them to use as an education program. And they're gonna really teach the city's youth how to progress even further with this. And they're going to develop a relationship. They already have a relationship. They're going to develop a program with the local restaurants downtown that they can take advantage of that. And we anticipate to really market it much further aside from residents. Right now, I'm just residents, but that's going to help me break it out to the private sector as well.
Awesome, thank you. So feel free to drop questions and challenges that you're facing in the chat. And Dan's done a great job of walking you through what's going on there. And go ahead, Dan.
One other thing, and I forgot to mention, when I first started this program, I didn't realize that there was a way to do this on site in town. I thought my original thought when I got the first grant was I was going to take the food waste and haul it to one of the state permitted sites. And that would have done it. That would have gotten us, but we wouldn't have had the environmental impact that I think we have here by handling it inside. So we're not commuting 90 miles round trip to drive it to a state permitted site. So between that and the marketing that we're going to do in terms of, food tables and backyard, and like Marjorie said, I think there's many different ways that we can assist and hopefully put a dent in this problem.
Yeah, we have to, right? So, Dan, with your permission, I'll run through a couple of these slides as people drop questions into the chat, just so they can see how amazing it is, the work that you've done. You've mentioned videos, and you've got 2 locations and a great kit that was offered, and some how-to videos, which really helped with the education and training. And you put a lot of effort into the planning, right? Understanding what was it, what kind of goals you can anticipate, where you should be doing this, and how much space and what logistical needs and staffing needs would be necessary, and understanding who you wanted to work with, and what kind of training and service and operational guidance. And then you mentioned, of course, the community engagement and the task force. Maybe you want to speak a little bit to that in a moment, about the task force that you created and their invaluable role, and the materials that you created, and tapping into the excitement that people, want to recycle and they want to make a difference. They don't want this problem in their backyard. And of course, the elements of the program being, staff engagement and how you train and educate them. There's a question in the chat about contamination. We'll get to in a second. I'm sure training and education was a big part of reducing that, and defining who did what. And you've talked about how many machines and the output can be picked up by the local community. It's right nearby there. So what they put in, they use the output, and the grants, and of course that your growth over the years is measurable and meaningful, and the expansion that you talked about underway. So maybe anybody have any questions that you want to, let's see, let me look into the chat for a second. So contamination issues, getting over the yuck factor that some people have. Dan, can you talk about that a little bit?
So again, we have a drop-off program. Our recycling center is open 5 days a week, and residents who purchase those kits that you see in the picture of come and drop it off. And they are the committed, right? Those people, we've gone through some initial issues with what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and in essence, the machine dehydrates. So it's dehydrates 90%, if you will, taking out all the liquids. Therefore, what goes in comes out. So when it comes out, it's a soil amendment. It's something that could be added. It's got to be cured for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And if there's plastic in there, if there's glass in there, you would see it when it comes out. If there's a large T-bone steak in there, steak bone, then that'll come out. The machine has, like the photo showed of the table to ground machine, it's got augers and it uses heat. So therefore it can, it's not, a 3-4 month compost cycle that will compost everything. It composting within 24, 36 hours. So between the heat and the augers, it will compost most things. It will compost mussel shells, but it won't compost clam shells because they're too hard. Compost chicken bones, but won't compost heavy duty steak bones, that kind of thing. So once we've learned what's acceptable, what's not, we've advertised that and marketed it with the public, and really it is not an issue. As Marjorie had said, our residents who partake in the program can take the end product, so they see what comes out, and we have a screener there that they can use, and really it's a fairly clean product that comes out.
Yeah, that's helpful, because I think finding the recipe, right, and how you're going to address what's going in takes time, and it takes education. And since you're 4 years in, it's probably like, you know,
I think when we have 52 containers throughout the city, then there'll be more of the people who wish to partake in the program as well, and we'll see more contamination then. And we'll make our best efforts to market the right way and to sign the right way, and hopefully we'll lessen that. But again, the same thing will come out. We'll have to screen, the final product, and you'll be able to see what people are utilizing, putting in the program.
yeah. Liza's asking, what challenges have you faced with EPA funds?
Let me say this: EPA is wonderful. I just had a meeting with them today, and my first conversation was making sure that my contacts there are okay with everything that's going on. They still have their jobs, which is good. So they, the challenges are you have to make sure that bottle compliance is a big issue. So what I found is that anybody you talk to, as Marjorie said, there's a lot of different options, and there's a lot of different companies out there. And the companies that I've gotten to know a little bit and researched, all kind of use the same terminology. Oh, well, we're dehydrated, we're aerobic, we're anaerobic, and you really have to dig in deep to figure out, okay, what is it they do? What size machines do they have? What's the out product? So there's a lot of different factors to it. EPA bottle compliance is a big issue, and if you're not going to purchase bottle compliant, then you have to go through an appeal process, and everything just takes takes a long time to get done. But they've been a great help, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I find the same. Was somebody going to ask a question? Someone's asking about the kits, but it looks like it was answered. And the kits are not required, but it was a nice service. I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of other people too, as long as you're collecting it and sorting it, right?
Exactly. And after we started our program, our original kits cost me $20. We sold them for $20. And then I've been trying to market to people that we would prefer, although it's harder for people, not to use the compost bags because they have a tendency to knot them, and the knots don't compost as quickly in a 24-hour cycle. And sometimes you see little bits of plastic, although, compost bags are thin. And predominantly most of it goes away in the compost cycle in the first 24, 36 hours, but not always.
Katie's asking a question. Can you explain more about your drop-off location, how your drop-off locations were determined?
Sure. Well, like I said, I have a recycling center that's open 5 days a week. And I have a staff there. And I said, we can put the machine here and I can have my staff work on when the public comes in and help them. And we were able to do that, with an initial staff balking maybe, but we were able to succeed from there. And again, I go to my contact at the original company that I dealt with was Arthur. And Arthur lives 15 minutes from where my recycling center is, and was up at my facility probably at least 3 days a week, helping us out, educating my staff, educating the public, cleaning the machine. So that was wonderful. The second machine really was a challenge because I wanted to put it up at an arboretum. I wanted to put it up at another facility in North Stamford, which is about 8 miles away from my other facility. And then all the hoops and costs that I had to jump through to get power, the proper power, three-phase power, was just astronomical. And then I found we have a couple of public farms in town, and I convinced them, or they agreed to, whatever term you want to use. So I said, I'll give this to you for free. Help me out and do this. And they accepted it. And, they're working with it. And they've had it now for over a year. And we've been pretty successful with it, I think. So that's how the two sites were chosen.
Yeah, and the service aspect of things is, in our opinion, so important because the planning phase, these things are not easy. There's a lot of complex issues based on where you are. And, anyone that says they have a plug and play solution, it's just not easy. So the planning
Right.
phase is so, so important. So thank you for acknowledging that, Dan. Any other questions before I move into the part where I'm going to ask you all to come up with your action plan? Okay. I'm going to forge ahead. Thank you so much for that, Dan. So, I mean, we really want you to leave this today having learned something, yes, but also what can you do, right? Because everyone's got a unique scenario. So we wanted to give you these thought starters so that you can think about how, where you can start to take action. So when you think about do you even know how much food waste is generated, right? There's a couple of amazing calculators out there on our resources page that I'll send you. You've got the RIT one, the EPA has the WARM model, REFED has an impact calculator. There's also the bucket method. If you fill a bucket with food waste, it's probably about 25 pounds. Like just understanding what you're dealing with is really important. And then what's in it? What do you need to address? What are the goals and how will you measure results is also, something to really consider. because it might not always be easy to measure results. Some of it might be subjective, but whatever you can do objectively is amazing. You know, that we have scales, so obviously we measure what's in and what's going out. But what else is important, right? Number of participants, et cetera. And how is the community going to be engaged? What resources do you have and what do you need? You know, Dan has applied for grants and he's been very successful in that. Some people need that as well. Some people, and there's a lot of state grants available, depending upon what state you're in, but some don't. And so what other resources do you need, you know, and what operational and space considerations? Obviously, staff is a big one. And, you know, the task force that Dan spoke about, we find is very, very helpful having somebody, an ambassador initially monitoring what's happening, what's going in, what's coming out, how can we educate people? And also what's going on regionally. Can you take a regional approach, like Connecticut has their COGS, you know, so that you can learn from each other and grow from there. So those are just some thought starters, and I'm happy to hear. We'd love to hear, you know, what what are you thinking of doing? You know, you can ask a question, you can put it in the chat, and we can have a conversation here. So let's see. Yeah, CET is a great resource. They're available in Connecticut. They're also available on Long Island. We work with them closely through the Long Island Organics Initiative I mentioned at the beginning of this call. And CET, you know, typically will, if they're engaged, right, they're engaged by the DEEP in Connecticut and the DEC in New York, as a free resource for people to be able to evaluate what's going on and what kind of resources might be available. So I see Freya put a calculator tool in there as well.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Okay.
I just thought I'd show my face. Yes. I, along with my counterpart, Nick DeVito, we do waste assessments in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do an awesome resource. And that's so important. What resources are available for you? The Connecticut Deep has done a great job of having webinars and speakers and helping people understand what the laws are and what funding is available. So that's pretty cool. Any comments or questions? Any actions that people, you know, Dan has been kind enough to offer a site visit for anybody who wants to do that. And we, of course, are happy to give a consultation as well. But anyone want to chime in? We've got a little bit of time left.
I would suggest this to people as well. If you really think about it, I think it's a huge environmental benefit to be able to work on composting at your facility or your location rather than driving to get it done. And you know, one of the most important things that I found was, you know, developing a partnership with, you know, your company, your service provider, your machine provider, as well as, like I said, through the task force, developing a partnership with the public, you know, because you know that, I mean, there's a percentage of people who, you know, everybody talks about recycling, everybody talks about composting, and you know, it's great, we want to do it, huh? And then when push comes to shove, maybe not everybody's going to do it, but there's the committed. And those are the people you can tap into, and those are people who are really going to help you, you know, start a program or get the program up and running.
Good point. Seeing some chat, you know, that, you know, state legislation does make such a difference, you know, and enforcement, of course. And Mary Hogue has visited your site, so she can attest to the value of making an appointment with Dan and doing that, and that as a model. Wow, we got through this like much faster than we thought, Dan.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, you know, you talk about state law, you know, Connecticut's changing law or inserting law starting, I think, I want to say in October. And that is that if there's a school building that is within 20 miles of a state permitted food waste reduction facility and produces 26 tons or more of garbage, that the food waste has to go. You have to compost it, has to go to one of these facilities. And actually, I'm pretty excited that Afraid is on the call, because I'll be calling CET tomorrow, because I will be looking into trying to get a waste analysis of our schools, and I'm trying to find through the DP, when I got this initial information at a webinar, I went back to our DP and I says, well, how do I find out if my schools are within 20 miles of a state permitted facility? And I did not get a response, but I think we're on the edge. My machines that I have currently, I hate to say it, are not permitted to a DP. I'm working on getting that permitted to a DP, but because we are such a different animal, I think, that DEP didn't even know how to what permit to offer for our machines. So we're in the process of working with them and applying for a permit that is still undeveloped. So I won't have a food waste compost permit at my location, so I don't have to bring my food waste if my schools produce over 26 tons. But if so, starting in, I think it's October, we're gonna have to haul that food waste to, I think the closest facility for us is 90 miles round trip.
Dan, we look forward to hearing from you. My counterpart, Nick DeVito, is already working with several schools in the northern part of Connecticut, especially in New Haven. So he would most likely be the point person who would be assisting you.
Thank you.
And I'll let him know that, I'll let my team know that you will be reaching out soon.
And Nick is
Appreciate it.
There's a question in the chat in regard to issues with curbside collection. It's to Dan, but it's to everybody too. So residents want the largest cart, 95 gallons, to put food scraps and yard debris in. And during the winter months, residents don't want to put food scraps in the cart since the cart is so big with little material. They believe it's not worth it. Has anyone had this issue, and how have they overcome it?
I'll tell you my experience. We issue 96 or 64 gallon carts for garbage and or recycling. We have single stream recycling. The garbage, because it has food waste in it, is dense. So therefore, recycling has volume to it. Cardboard boxes that take up a lot of space, and people have a tendency not to crush and flatten. And I saw in New York City, which just passed, I think started this month, the mandate that you have to recycle food waste. And I believe their carts are 32 gallon, what I saw. And also what I saw is that they pick them up once a week. And it's just food waste. I don't think they have browns in them. So I saw property managers complain, well, once a week, really, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in New York City. I'm dying to see because what happens in the summer months? What happens when people have big barbecues and things like that? So
we're going to find out, right? We live in a building in New York City, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I know Allison Allen is on the phone somewhere too, and she's been leading that charge. So, so yeah, it's very, very interesting. Dan, a question came in. It sounds like pilots are really meaningful to start with a pilot program. Is that true? What would you suggest?
Well, I think that, if you can start with a pilot program, obviously it's advantageous, because like when I started our program, I did not know what to expect. I said, all right, it's a grant, it's paying for my machine. I'm staffing it with my current staff. But I did not know what to expect. And then maybe I didn't give it enough thought. because, if you look at the kits, if you have 300 people dropping off those kits, that's substantially more than 100 pounds a day. And that's what happened. So, like you said, it's planning a lot of details on it, but then being flexible. I mean, that was also a key part of it. You have to be able to be able to move and shake and change your plans midstream. I mean, we were successful in swapping out our 100-pound machine for a 500-pound machine, and that opened doors to us. I do not want to collect food waste that when the recycling center closes, the residents don't know, but that goes in the garbage. So you don't want to do that. I also had a backup plan, and that's good to have as well. There's a local company that I contracted. If I had more than enough, that he would take it to the facility, 45 miles from me. And we wound up doing that when my machine was down for a little while. So you need a backup plan as well.
Yeah, good backup plans. So just going to spend a moment encouraging you to put in the chat if there's any other questions that you have or anything that you plan to do as a result of this conversation. Here are the calculators that I mentioned. CET is a resource. Zero Food Waste Coalition has some great toolkits, refed.org. If you're not familiar with that, again, amazing resources and toolkits. And so worth that. There's a organic summit in Troy, New York, starting tomorrow. If anyone's going to be going there, let me know. This is how you can reach Arthur, Dan, I. And I do have one more poll if we want to take it. Let's see. Let's see. I don't see any more questions, so I think we are going to launch this poll. And if anyone's considering an on-site solution or you're not sure, feel free to drop it in here. And feel free to contact us. Again, it's going to take all of us, and we really, really appreciate your time. And we enjoy Food Waste Prevention Week. So many amazing webinars and resources for all of you to take advantage of. And if anybody wants to put in the chat any other announcements or anything, feel free. And so, yeah, the not sure, understand. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So it's got, we got 30% yes, 30% no, pretty much, and 40, the rest, not sure. So thank you all. Really appreciate your time and all you're doing to address the issue of waste. So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Dan.
Marjorie.